Good morning students. Today we are going to go for the next part, that is the source of data. And what we were discussing in the last class, there are two types of sources. The one is primary and as well as the secondary. And in case of primary sources of data, we are going to go for the personal interview, the mailing questionnaire method and the telephone interview method. Now, what do you mean by the personal interview method, which comes under the primary data? Listen here, the personal interview method is a method wherein the investigator or the so-called researcher will go personally to the respondents and is going to gather or is going to collect the data. That is, the researcher is going to collect the data from the field is called as the personal interview method. So here, what's going to happen? Here, the researcher is going to take the interview of the each respondent. So that's called as a personal interview method. Okay, so the researcher will conduct a face-to-face interview here, and the personal interviews are the most commonly used methods of the data collection. So what are those personal interview? They are the most commonly used methods of the data collection, wherein the researcher will personally take the face-to-face interview. So what are the merits or what are the advantages of personal interview method? So here there is a personal contact between the researcher and the what you call respondent. It means there is a personal contact between the researcher and the respondent, and the investigator has an opportunity of explaining the given question to the respondent. Okay, if at all the respondent is not able to follow that question, he can explain that question to the respondent. That is how he can give the answer, or what is the answer that the researcher is expecting from the respondent. So that is the second benefit. And the third one is, if at all there are any misunderstanding, that can be taken off in case of a personal interview. The next one is, the investigator can also request the respondent to give the answer for the important questions only. It means he can skip some of the questions which are not so important, or some of the questions which are personal. Those questions he can tell the respondent to skip and give the answer which are more important and which are related to the investigation. And the next one is, the investigator can watch the reaction of the respondent while giving the answer. It means, as a researcher, when I'm going to ask a question to the respondent, so what will be the reaction? Whether the respondent is actually interested to give the answer, or whether he is not interested, or whether he is just ignoring the questions. So all these reactions you can make out by the researcher in case of a personal interview. Okay, and there is a flexibility in restructuring the questionnaire. Okay, whenever I am going to go to ask the question to the respondent, if at all the question is too personal, that time a researcher can change the nature of the question, or he can change some of the basic structure in asking the question. That is, there is a flexibility for the researcher in framing the questions. Now, what are the demerits? So, what are the demerits here? So, the first demerit is, it is costly and it requires training. So, what are the demerits? It is costly. It is costly as well as it requires training. For example, if at all there is a researcher who don't have any training, then whatever questions he may ask, or it can be a failure, because while asking the questions, the researcher has to take care that he should not go for the personal questions, okay, or the questions which are very much personal to the respondent. Those questions should not be asked in that questionnaire. So it requires personal training to ask a questionnaire or to put the questionnaire, and it is a costly affair because the researcher has to go to the respondent. If at all the researcher is living in a faraway place, then he has to spend more money. Then he has to spend money on transport, the lodging, the boarding, everything. So the cost will be more, in case of a personal interview method. The second disadvantage is it is time consuming. The second one, it is time consuming. It means what here, it takes a lot of time on behalf of the researcher. Okay, whenever I am going to frame the question, I have to frame the question, I have to go to the respondent. If all the respondent is not there, I have to wait for him. So who is the respondent? The respondent is a person who gives the answer. So they are called as what here? Respondents. So he has to wait for the respondents till they come back, or he has to go to that place. So all this will require more of the time. Okay, and also the respondent may not give exact answer for the sensitive questions like the level of income, like the number of the fixed assets he is having. So some questions which are very much personal, they may not give you the exact answer. So these are the demerits of the personal interview method. Now come to the next one, that is the mailing questionnaire method. So now we have discussed about the personal interview. Now second one is what? The mailing questionnaire method. Okay, what do you mean by a mailing questionnaire method? Okay, in this method the researcher will mail the list of questions to the respondent and ask them to write the answer and again repost it to the researcher. Okay, for example, if I am a researcher or if I belong to a particular company, okay, I'm going to purchase a car. Okay, after purchasing of the car, after 1 month, a letter may come to you from the company. In that letter, there will be a list of questions like whether you are happy with the purchase of the car, whether you were given the due respect, whether you were offered tea or coffee, okay, what were the services, how do you rate our company. So there will be some list of questions which is given by the company, which will be coming through the post, and it will be written that you please reply to the question and put that post. There will be one more cover in which you have to repost it to the company. So that is called as a mailing questionnaire. So what is mailing questionnaire method? It is a method wherein the researcher or the investigator will prepare a list of questions, okay, and is going to post it to the address of the respondents. So what respondents will do? The respondents will mark the answer and they will repost it to the researcher. So here the nature of the questions will be like objective questions, like multiple choice questions. So the questions will be like yes or no. So do you like our service? For example, there is a question, do you like our services? Okay, in front there will be an answer, option will be there, why and yes. So the instruction will be given just to take the answer. Okay, whether you like our hospitality. So the second question will be what? Whether you like our hospitality. Yes or no. What is your annual income? The question will be like annual income. Includes that more than 1 lakh or less than 1 lakh. Like that will be able to take the appropriate answer. So like this. So this is called as what here? The mailing questionnaire method, wherein the researcher will post the questions to the respondents and the respondents should give the answer and repost back to the researcher. So what are the features? Or what are the features of a good questionnaire? So we are going to prepare a questionnaire and post it to the respondent. Or how a questionnaire should be. A 4 marks question will be asked. What are the features of a good questionnaire? 4 marks question. What will be the question? What is the question? What are the features of a good questionnaire? What are the features of a good questionnaire? Okay, so this question will come for 4 marks for your examination. So, what are they? First one, okay, the questionnaire should not be too long. What is the first feature? It should not be too long. What happens if the question is too long? If the question is too long, the respondent will not feel like giving the answer, or he will be getting confused, like which is the question and which is the answer. It should not be too long. It should be just like a multiple choice, yes or no, like that. As I give an example, would you like a hospitality? Yes or no? What's your annual income? More than 1 lakh or less than 1 lakh? Whether the service was satisfactory? Yes or no? Like that. It should be very short and sweet. Second one, the question shouldn't be too long, and it should be always to the point. Okay. The second one is the number of questions should be minimum as far as possible. Okay, you should not go on asking about questions like 50 to 60 questions in a particular paper. It should be like minimum, like 10 to 20 or 25 to 30 questions, wherein a respondent will feel like answering that question. Okay, the reasonable question should be there, but it should not be, the number of questions should not be too long. The next one is what here? The series of questions should move from general to particular. What do you call? The series of questions should move from general to particular. General to particular. It means what? First we have to take the general question. Okay, what is the general question? For example, which city do you belong? I belong to the city of Hubli. So that is general question. In Hubli, which area? We are coming from general to particular. Okay, for example, Keshwapur area. In Keshwapur area, where is your home? So now first we took Hubli, then you took the area, then you come to home. Then how many members are there in your family? General, 6 members. Out of 6 members, how many are working? Particular. So like that. So to come from general to particular, but directly we should not come to that question. First the question should be general, then we should move to the particular question. Okay. Or one more example we can give is the supply of electricity is regular in your locality. So that is a general question. Generally we are speaking, for example, whether the electricity supply is regular in your locality is a general question. Then you come to the particular. Okay, whether your home is getting regular supply of electricity. So that's a particular question. Like that, the question should always move from general to particular, but not from particular to general. Then the question should be short and sweet. It should be very much precise and clear. A question should be precise and clear. It means whatever you want to ask, you ask it directly. You make it very short. You make it up to the point. Don't do any beating around the bush. You should not do any beating around the bush, but you should ask the questions directly. Okay. Next one is what? The questions should not have any of the doubtful questions, or the questions should not be ambiguous. The questions should not be ambiguous, or they should not have double negatives. So what do you mean by this double negative? The double negative is not if, not whether, if, why, how. So they should not be like a double question. The question should not feel any sort of negativity. The question should not have any sort of negativity. So these are some of the features of a good questioners. Okay. Now the next one is the type of a questioners. What are the types of questioners? There are 2 types. One is called as the closed-ended questions. The closed-ended questions. And the second one is open-ended question. How many types are there? 2 types. One is the closed-ended and the open-ended. Okay, what are those closed-ended questions? For example, if you might have come across the question paper like multiple choice questions. So these multiple choice questions can be called as closed-ended question. Whether the answers will be very much limited. You are given the option of 2 or 4 questions. In that only you have to choose the question. So they are called as closed-ended question, wherein the respondent will not have a freedom to express his answer. He cannot express the answer, but you should choose the answer which is given already in the questionnaire. So they are called as closed-ended question. For example, the multiple choice questions, wherein you are going to choose appropriate answer. So they are called as closed-ended question. The next one is what's your open-ended question. Like, for example, if you are going to write the long answers, like for a 4 marks question or like a 10 marks question, they are called as open-ended questions, wherein the respondents are having a freedom to express their views regarding a question. So they are called as open-ended question. So these are the two types of the questionnaires, that is closed and open-ended question. Now third one is what? The telephone interview method. So what is this telephone interview method? So here in this method, the questionnaires are asked over the telephone. What happening? The questions are asked over the telephone. So they are called as the telephone interview method. So what are the merits? The merits of telephone interview are, it is the cheapest method. This method is the cheapest method, and also you can reach the respondent within a fraction of minutes. Even though the respondent is living in a far away place, you can reach him within a fraction of minutes. Okay, and it's going to save your time, it's going to save your money. Okay, and also it is faster than the other methods. So these are the merits of telephone interview. What are the demerits? The demerits is what? You cannot see the reaction of the respondent. You cannot see the reaction of the respondent, and it can be conducted. Even though it can be conducted within a given period of time, but whatever answers you are required, you may not get it over the telephone because of miscommunication. Because of miscommunication, what happens? You cannot get the exact answer what you actually wanted, and sometimes the respondent may not respond to your call. If at all the respondent is not interested, you may not respond over the call, and there might be some of the network problems or the connectivity problem. So these are the demerits of the telephone interview method. So these are the two methods of collecting the data. That is the primaries. In that primary data, there is personal interview, the mailing questionnaire and telephone interview method. So in the next class, we can go with the secondary data. Thank you.